from around the globe, in sold-out arenas and humble churches, from out on the streets to your screen. And now, the time and what must be done. Part 3. On this edition of Farrakhan Speaks.
Greetings to you. I am Minister Louis Farrakhan, National Representative of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, that great preacher of freedom, justice, and equality to the Aboriginal people of the earth, and in particular, the black people of North America and the Western Hemisphere. He's also a warner to America and to us, as well as a warner to the nations of the earth. I am so happy and honored to have this privilege to speak to you once again on this great subject given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the time and what must be done. The Quran, the 103rd chapter, titled Al-Asr, the time. I want to quote it again. By the time, surely man is in loss except those who believe and do good and enjoin one another to truth and enjoin one another to patience. These verses tell us that time is a standard by which we can judge our actions. If we understand the time and judge our actions by the time, then it is required of us to be in accord with the time, and by so doing, we will not suffer loss. But if we reject the knowledge of the time and go contrary to what must be done in accord with that knowledge, then our rejection will not only bring us loss, but it will bring us death. By the time, surely man is in loss. Well, who is going to teach us the knowledge of the time? This knowledge has to come from God and His intervention in the world at a time that He is judging the world. The people that live in the world must know that God is judging today, and He is going to make it so clear as to why He's judging, and then give us that standard and then command us to be in harmony with the requirements of the time, that we might be successful and come through God's judgment of this present world. Well, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has been chosen by Almighty God Allah in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, the great Mahdi, looked for by the Muslim world, and the great Masih or Messiah, looked for by the Christians and the Jews. He's present. He's in the world. And it is He who is giving us the knowledge of the time and what must be done. Master Farad Muhammad came among us and made himself known to us July 4th, 1930. And in 1931, he raised the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He began to teach him the knowledge of self, the knowledge of God, the knowledge of other than God, and the knowledge of the time and what must be done. But he had to make sure that his student was grounded in that knowledge before he left. And he left in 3 years and 4 months, and in that time he made Elijah Muhammad a master of that knowledge and set him out to give that knowledge. Well, as he gave that knowledge, it created an upset, not only among the whites who were ruling, it created an upset among his followers who Master Farad Muhammad had given Elijah Muhammad to be their spiritual guide and leader. And it was all right until he was named. And once Elijah Muhammad was given that scepter of rulership and guidance, then it created problems within the house, and the teachings that he was giving at that time created upset in the government of the United States of America. The U.S. government arrested Elijah Muhammad, and the U.S. government captured all of the teachings that Master Farad Muhammad had given him. And they studied those teachings. And then they really began to know that that one who came, that one who taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, was that long looked for man that the world had been waiting for 2,000 years. As we said in our last broadcast, Jesus came to the Jews of that time. They rejected him. Jesus was their last hope to escape that which would come after the workings of Satan. So Jesus told them when he discovered that he was 2,000 years too soon to bring an end to the civilization of the Jews, he said, "It is expedient for you that I go away," meaning I die. And he said that in his going, you will see me no more. Read it for yourself in the scriptures. But he prophesied that one would come after him that would reprove the world of sin and of judgment, because whatever he said, it would be said again, but this time it would be proved by the reality of the time and the presence of God and the beginning of the judgment of this world. Are you sure that Elijah Muhammad is that man to give us the knowledge of the time? Well, let's look at the people out of which he came, and let's look at the substance of what has happened to this people, the black man and woman of America. America, no matter what you have done in the world of evil, what has brought the judgment of God on America and on you is what you have done and continue to do and plan yet to do with the people of God. He has chosen us to be His people, as it is written, and He would be our God. And He's exceedingly angry now with you because you have rejected the knowledge of the time, and He is displeased with black people who have been hearing this knowledge and refuse to come away from the oppressor. Unite and do something for self. So both now are in the position to suffer more and more loss. In the book of Genesis, around the 15th chapter, the 13th, 14th, and 15th verses, God is talking to Abram. And He told Abram, your seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. And they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. But after that time, I will come, and I will judge that nation which they shall serve. And afterwards they shall come out with great substance and go to their fathers in peace and be buried in a good old age. Abraham's seed then in the future would be enslaved. You have a picture of that enslavement with the children of Israel in Egypt. And if you look in the book of Deuteronomy, around the 18th chapter, the 18th verse, God is talking to Moses, and He tells Moses, I'm going to raise up from among them a prophet like unto you, Moses, and I am going to put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak unto them all that I shall command him. So we see the picture of Moses. We see the picture of the children of Israel. We see the picture of Pharaoh and Pharaoh's refusal to do what God was commanding him to do by the mouth of Moses. And what was that command? That command was not to integrate the children of Israel into Egypt. No, it was to separate the children of Israel from the power of Pharaoh and the Egyptians, because he had a purpose for them, that he was going to build them into a great people and a great nation that would be of service to the world, and even of service to Pharaoh and his people. But in Pharaoh's arrogance, his sense of self and power, who is this that told you to tell me to let this people go? And Moses told them, it was the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. God had presented himself to Moses. Well, that has happened in fulfillment of that prophetic symbolic picture in North America. The great Mahdi, or Son of Man, made his appearance in America. He chose from among a people destroyed under the rule of this government of the United States of America. He chose a leader for us, a teacher for us, a warner for you and the nations of the earth. How do you know that Elijah Muhammad is that one? Well, if you go to the last book of prophecy, it's a book called Malachi, and it means my messenger. In the 4th chapter, from the 4th to the 6th verse, it says, behold, before that great and dreadful day of the Lord, I will send you Elijah the prophet, and he will turn the hearts of the children to their fathers and their fathers' heart back toward those children, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. In that 4th chapter of Malachi, from the 4th to the 6th verses, is a knowledge of the time. The first 4 represents 4,000 years from Moses. The man like Moses would come. The second 4 represents after 400 years of their servitude slavery, God would come among them and choose a man named Elijah. And the 6 means after 6,000 years of the rule of a contrary ruler, a ruler that was made for the purpose of making manifest the wickedness of the original people in its fullest, thereby bringing God out of his hiding place to seek and to save that which was lost. In future broadcasts, by the grace of Allah, I want to talk to white America. I want to talk to you about why you have been made, the purpose of your life. Even though you have done evil on this planet, that evil was ordained by God. And when we get into the nature of you and why that nature was necessary and the good that would ultimately come from a nature that was made by God to be in rebellion. Well, Elijah is here. Elijah has come. And among the Jewish people, Elijah was to give you the clearest sign of the presence or the coming of the Messiah which you seek. Elijah, in your feast or at Seder, you hold the door open for Elijah. You set the table and leave a place for Elijah. Elijah has come, and Elijah is here to fulfill what is written of him. And if your door is still open, if your heart is open like your door, and if he has a place at your table, then you can escape the consequences of the world and civilization that you have been the architect of. Elijah is present, and now Elijah is the one that is teaching you the time. Well, the Bible ends with the coming of Elijah, and the New Testament opens with the genealogy of Jesus. How is Elijah and Jesus connected? The Elijah of the Old Testament is the prophesied Jesus of the New Testament. He comes to a people that have eyes, but they can't see. They have ears, but they can't hear. They have tongues, but their tongues have not spoken the truth because there was no one to tell them the truth that would free them from their oppressor. So in the scriptures, prophet Jesus said, you shall, future tense, know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Well, he wasn't talking about himself. He gave that to another man who would be coming at the end of this world. That man is present. That man is teaching that truth that will not only free the black man, but it will free the white man from the chains of the nature that was given to him by his father. We'll get into that at another time. But sufficient for this time is, why is white America and black America suffering loss? Why is America and black people not only losing, but every day the loss is being compounded because of the rebellion? Well, some of you may say, well, look, I didn't know about it. I didn't rebel. Yes, but your leaders know. J. Edgar Hoover worked diligently to destroy the rise of a black Messiah that would unite black people and free us from the grip of oppression. That man named Elijah. He named Malcolm X. He named Martin Luther King. And the government of the United States used its power against Dr. King, against Brother Malcolm, against the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and against those black leaders who spoke in a nationalistic term, because one of them was to be that Messiah that would bring our people together, give us that truth that would free us from the grip of our oppressor, and lay down the standard of the time by which America could judge her actions. You have not freed black people. Your so-called Emancipation Proclamation didn't free us. You never gave the black man something to go with. You never taught him that which he would need to make an independent start for himself after the Emancipation Proclamation. Within 12 years of our so-called freedom, the slaves had built 60 towns in America. The slaves had sent black men to Congress. The slaves were marching forward. We that built this country, we fought in all your wars for your independence, for your freedom, for your justice, while we were deprived of what we fought to get for you. Well, within 12 years, you put the black man back on the plantation in sharecropping. You developed slave code laws. The lynchings began. Black people have been murdered in the cities and towns of America, and even today, you look at us with the thought of murder. In fact, the wise among you feel that we are no longer useful, and we've become, as George Washington said, a troublesome species of property. You don't want to let us go. You don't want to give us a good send-off. Your aim now is genocidal. And this is making the God that came after us more and more angry. And as you are planning our death, he's giving you some of what you plan for his people. The time and what must be done. Let us look at how you're losing. According to our research, here is the fall of this great nation. The unemployment rate was 7.7% in November. The unemployed persons at 12 million, and the underemployed another 10 or 12 million. The black unemployment rate is 13.2%, double that of whites, while the white rate stood at 6.8%. The racial gap in the unemployment rate defies educational attainment and occupational endeavor. Blacks with at least a bachelor's degree had a 7.1% jobless rate in 2011, while the white rate was 3.9%. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, similarly, black workers with only a high school education had a jobless rate of 15.5%, while similarly educated white workers had an unemployment rate of 8.4%. Larry Summers, former Obama advisor, said, quote, "The level of unemployment will, by all forecasts, remain unacceptably high for a number of years." Well, if you can't make jobs for your millions of unemployed, you certainly can't create jobs for ours. Black people in America, our condition worsens as America's condition worsens. And if America goes down because of a global nature of economics and the value of the dollar as the currency of favor, when that dollar goes, the whole world that has been dependent on trade and commerce with America will go down as well. What kind of loss are you and we suffering because you refuse to accept the knowledge of the time and act in accord with it? 1.2 million households whose incomes put them in the top 1% of the United States saw their earnings increase by 5.5% last year. According to estimates released last month by the U.S. Census Bureau, earnings for the others fell 1.7% for the 96 million households in the bottom 80%, those that made less than $101,000. Workers have lost an average of 25% of their 401ks. while the wealth of the 400 richest Americans went up by $30 billion. We're losing. Let's continue to study our loss. And in studying it, we hope that there's time for black and white and brown to do something in accord with the time, to lessen the suffering that is going to increase in this year of 2013. How do you know that, Brother Farrakhan? It is written in the Holy Quran that whenever God sends you a messenger, He seizes the people with distress and affliction, not to kill them, but that they might humble themselves to the knowledge that is being given to them, that they might save themselves. About 3.9 million homes went into foreclosure in 2011. In 2010, 3.8 million. In 2009, 3.4 million. In 2008, 3 million. So you have 13 million Americans have lost their homes to foreclosure in the last 5 years. 25 banks failed and were taken over by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation in 2008. 140 banks failed in 2009, 157 in 2010, and 92 in 2011. 39 banks have failed in 2012. In contrast, in the 5 years prior to 2008, only 11 banks had failed. So you have almost 1,000 banks closing, seized. Well, what about the condition of the states that we are living in? The United States, many of these states are on the verge of bankruptcy, with several of them ready to declare a financial state of emergency. The budget gaps that states have had to close for fiscal year 2013, the fiscal year that began July 1st, 2012, total $55 billion in 31 states. That amount is smaller than in past years, but not enough to say that the states and the economy is recovering. The U.S. debt is now $16 trillion. More than 3 million people are homeless, and the fastest growing segment of the homeless population is families with children. A century and a half after the end of legal slavery, white families average $113,000 in wealth. But for black families, it's just $5,600. More than a quarter of black families have no assets at all. The wealth gap between whites and blacks have quadrupled since 1984 and is now wider than it has ever been. Even high-income blacks have assets of only $18,000, while middle-income whites are getting even richer. All of the financial gains made by the black middle class over the last 30 years have now been totally wiped out by this latest economic downturn called the Great Recession. Brothers and sisters, can't you see how we are losing? Because all the teachers that tried to get us to see that we must get up from the foot of white America, unite, pool our dwindling resources and do something for ourselves. We've turned a deaf ear to them. We want to move in with white people. We are so happy to have a black president, but the black president is only there to sell you the hope that America has a place for 40 million of us in the future. No, brothers and sisters, we can't use Barack Obama like that. There is no hope for America to make a place for 40 million of us and provide a future for us. We are going to have to do that for ourselves. The incarceration rate, 12 to 13% of the American population is black, but we make up 72.7% of the almost 2.1 million male inmates in jail or prison. 1 in every 10 is in prison or jail on any given day. These trends have been intensified by the disproportionate impact of the war on drugs, in which 2/3 of all persons in prison for drug offenses are people of color. More black men are in prison today than were enslaved in 1850. Black men are half as likely to die at any given time if they're in prison, but they're more likely to die if they walk the streets of the inner cities of America. More young black dropouts are in prison or jail than have paying jobs. The poverty rate for black people in America reached 28.1% in 2011. This is horrific, and it is going to get worse. Now, as we reflect over these statistics, what do they tell us? Hurricane Sandy and Athena came through. And unfortunately, in that storm, they are saying that they can offer to the residents of the East Coast that suffered loss $60 billion. But the governor of the state of New Jersey and New York said it's more like $80 billion. Where's that money coming from? FEMA does not have it. So America now, or the president that promised he was going to help, has to go before a Congress that's upset and ask for $80 billion. FEMA is running dry because the rate of calamities that is striking America one after another, you don't have enough money to restore the communities that are being destroyed by these disasters. Well, we're in 2013 now. What should you expect in this year? America, I'm sorry to tell you, the calamities will get greater and greater, more severe. Unfortunately, tremendous loss of property and increased loss of life. 29 states are already under drought conditions. What will happen when the beef cattle are dying because you can't get food to them? In Texas, the earth dried up under the foot of the cattle, so that they are eating the cattle because they can't feed the cattle anymore. Things are not going to get easier. They're going to get worse. The recent problem in Newtown, I would like you to look at what's happening in America. I have some statistics here. With your permission, I'd like to read a few of them because it's telling us what condition is in the country since Barack Obama was elected in 2008. Did you know that in 2008, when Brother was elected, there were only a few hundred militias? Today, there are over 1,200. And since he was re-elected, according to what our research has shown, thousands of Americans have gone to buy guns. They're not buying just handguns. They felt that since Newtown took place, that there would be many feeling that Obama and Congress was going to outlaw those kinds of weapons, so they rushed to the gun shops at such a pace that the FBI could not keep up with the proving the worth of these persons to have a weapon in their homes. What will this bring? There's a movie that is on the screen that depicts a black man killing white people. Who made this movie and why? White people are buying guns at a phenomenal rate. These are not black people in the gun stores. These are mostly white people buying weapons and ammunition to the degree that the stores have run out of ammunition to sell. What are they preparing for? When you go to see this movie, which I have not seen yet, but I've seen enough of it to know that those that own Hollywood, those that write scripts, are writing scripts and getting our actors to play the part of angry black men killing white people, so that white people in America who have these guns will start preparing their minds for a race war. Well, to my brothers and sisters in the inner cities, you have your little guns, and look at what we're doing to self. In Chicago, the statistics that I heard the other night on television, it's not a little over 400, it's nearly 500 deaths. Most of them in the inner city. Most of them black men killing black men. Although you have police now that are killing young black men all over this country in unprecedented numbers. By the time, surely, man is in loss, except those who believe. You don't believe that God has come and the judgment that is prophesied in the Bible and Quran is now taking place in America. You don't believe that you should let this black man go and help him to do something for himself. You don't believe, black man, that you should separate from your open enemy and begin to do the building of a nation for yourself. You don't believe that. And because you don't believe it, you keep pressing the enemy, and he's sick of you. He's tired of you laying around begging him for what you and I could unite and do for ourselves. So the anger in America is building. White people angry with their government. Now, the statistics that I was looking for, I think I could not find them all, and I'm sorry, because those statistics would absolutely show us exactly the kind of weapons that whites are buying. You say, well, it's the Second Amendment that gives us that right. Well, in discussing the Second Amendment, you cannot discuss that amendment without discussing the context in which that amendment was made a part of the U.S. Constitution. This is a serious, serious mistake on the part of those who use it to say that all of the American people have the right to bear the kind of arms that they're being sold. The arms that American people are being sold are actual weapons of war. And as you want to turn those guns, and you will turn those guns on these young black men who are killing each other in unprecedented numbers. I've warned you, my brothers and sisters. I've warned you that what you're doing will bring upon you death and destruction. These little guns that you have in your possession are no match for the guns that soon will be coming against you. If you pay no attention to what God has revealed for your salvation, as the Bible teaches, those who rebelled against Moses and Aaron, they were bitten by fiery serpents. It only means angry white people that hate your very shadow. Soon, and very soon, these police that are armed to the teeth, they come into our communities right now filled with hate for us. Stop our young people, handcuff them, search them. And if they find a gun on you, it is an excuse for them to kill you. This is going to multiply. I'm sorry to tell you such. Death and destruction is at our door. But I say to you, America, death and destruction is at your door also. Now, Look at the American people's thoughts about Congress. What is the percentage of American people that feel that the U.S. Congress is doing a good job? 11%? Then 89% of the American people are angry, disaffected, dissatisfied with their government, and you're selling them weapons of war, and the militias are multiplying. See? The right to bear arms was given at a time when there was no regulated militia to protect America. But now you have police well armed. You have state troopers well armed. You have the National Guard, and you have federal troops. There is no need for the American people to be armed to the teeth if you have a responsible militia to protect the society of the United States. But this now is in your house. You have allowed it. Over 350 million guns are in the possession of the American people, with a population that has not yet reached 350 million. And as anger toward the U.S. government increases, do you think that you too will do exactly what you accused Gaddafi of Libya of doing? You said he killed his own people, he's unfit to rule. You say Assad is killing his own people, he's unfit to rule. But what was done by your meddling in the affairs of these nations? Well, nobody has to meddle in the affairs of America because the people are dissatisfied with their government. You mean 20 states, after Barack Obama was reelected, had 25,000 people ready to secede from America? Is that a good sign? And if you go over the cliff, which maybe you will, if 2.1 million jobless can't get their unemployment payments, how will they feed their families, and what will it produce in the society? Oh, this time is so serious. What will become of us and this great nation if we refuse to come into harmony with God's will? And what is that will? You have to let the black man go. You have to help him to go for himself on some of this earth that we can call our own. More of this type of teaching on what to do will come in our next broadcast. But I say to America, there is no need for so much blood to be shed if we sit down and agree on a course that's best for America, best for black and brown people, best for the Native American people. And black people, you and I must agree that we can correct our own condition with the guidance that God has given to us through the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I pray that you will respond to this call. I pray, America, that you will see and know You can't provide for us any longer. You know this. So stop deceiving black people, making us think that you have a way out of this for us. You don't have it. And if you are honest with us, then our leaders will be able to come together to work out a future for us. But as long as you take a certain class of men and promise them wealth and nearness to you, if they oppose such a divine solution of separation, then I fear that your wickedness in opposing the solution that God has offered will cause greater and greater disaster. Soon, earthquakes will strike America, and many, many lives will be lost. And it won't just be white lives that are lost. It'll be us and you. We're in this really together. And because you control the media, because you have the power, you're fighting a solution that would give life to you, save your country, and give life to us and save us from the destructive fall of this great nation. Be warned, America, that the time and what must be done is at your door. And as conditions worsen, we are all in the valley of decision. Shall we obey our lusts? Shall we obey our greed? Shall we bask in the dwindling power that we have and say we'll fight God? You can't fight him and win. All the forces of nature will be brought against you as they are now being brought against you. May God grant you the wisdom to sit with your own scholars and scientists and reason with what God has asked, and let's come together and do what needs to be done. Thank you for listening, and may God grant you the light of understanding as I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Brothers and sisters, please log on again next week and every week this year for the time and what must be done. Tell your friends, tell your family. Log on to noi.org every Saturday, 6 p.m. Central Time for truth, guidance, and unequaled love from the national representative of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Pass on the word every Saturday at 6 p.m. Central Time at noi.org. The time and what must be done. Remember, to have Minister Farrakhan answer your questions, tweet them to @LouisFarrakhan, #AskFarrakhan. And to add this message to your library or as a gift for someone you love, go to store.finalcall.com.